I'd like to welcome you to this session on digital transformation in the industrial enterprise, presented by ATS Automation, with participation by the Process Automation Solutions Group and the Illuminate Digital Manufacturing Intelligence Group. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce you to myself. I'm Mike Tidy. I'm the General Manager of the ATS Digital Solutions team, and Damian Stellmach also joins me from the PA Solutions team. And between the two of us, we're going to take you through about a 30 to 40 minute conversation around digitalization within industrial enterprises, why that's important now, and why we're so focused on this and so excited about this topic. So what we're going to cover, I'll briefly go through a bit of the agenda here, and then we'll get into some of the meat. So we'll start off with why digital initiatives are so popular, and also some of the pitfalls or things that can also go wrong with them, and why there's a bit of risk associated with some of these with a lot of our customers. We'll then talk about platforms. Platforms are very trendy and very hot right now. Everyone's talking about their platform, and talk a little about why that's a great place to start and a great place to talk to, but may not be the very first thing that we need to do, and we'll spend some time talking about that. We'll then talk about some of the challenges and problems that you may encounter or could encounter with respect to digitalization, including things like domain knowledge. So do you actually understand do the people you work with understand your clients? Are they clear and understanding of you as a unique individual and unique company? And can they actually help you through that process? We'll then talk a little about being agile and moving fast and getting to results quickly. We'll talk about a bit of a different way, an evolutionary approach to digital transformation versus a more of a quick, destructive potentially approach to digital transformation that some organizations jump into. And then finally, we'll take you through a demo. We'll talk about a day in the life of operations manager, what sort of things you need as an organization to empower your employees. And we'll just jump through a bit of an explanation and show of how that can work for you. So without any further ado, let me step into the presentation here. So digital transformation is something that obviously a lot of organizations are focused on right now. And the reasons are fairly clear when you look at them on a scorecard, or if you look at your measures or KPIs around that. Organizations that invest in digital transformation do see a significant improvement in their overall KPIs, whether it's through revenue, profitability, being competitive, uniqueness, a need to be innovative, or driving shareholder value. So some significant benefits, around 12% increase overall from doing these. But with every increase, there also is a compensating risk and a challenge that goes with it. And those are some of the pieces we're going to try and identify over the next few minutes. So why would you want to digitalize your manufacturing enterprise? Listed a few of the reasons here. So obviously operational efficiency is massive these days. People are trying to do more with the investments they've made. Buying automation equipment, upgrading your facilities is not cheap. People are trying to get more out of what they have. They're trying to get more out of their staff. Sometimes they have challenges with staff, which we'll pick up in a few minutes. So efficiency is a massive driver right now in the digitalization world. Increasing productivity, whether that's through using, I said, those people better or that equipment, is again something we've been highly focused on as well. Being flexible, the ability to change from different product types, as well as scheduling times. We're finding organizations, particularly now being in the times of COVID, where there's a challenge with organizations being able to put all of their people in the same rooms at the same time and work on projects, be on the shop floor. So the idea that maybe running multiple shifts, where before you're maybe just running one or maybe two, is a new flexibility challenge that a lot of organizations don't have the experience to deal with because they only maybe ran one shift in the past or maybe two. Quality continues to be a driver for all operations. The cost of inputs into the process continues to go up. The investment we make in a product before it makes it to final product is significant. So increasing quality continues to be a massive driver for a number of clients. Utilization we picked up. Safety continues to be one, whether we've got new employees, we've got employees working different shifts they're not used to, where things could get a little less well organized than they traditionally are. Becomes an issue. Compliance with a lot of ATS's clients, particular around life sciences, medical devices, and medical products. continues to be somewhere we need to have that ability to manage and track what we're producing, what's going in, what's coming out, and have accountability through the process. We're also highly focused on the overall life cycle costs, so it's not just purchasing of the equipment, it's the ongoing management, maintenance, retiring, and replacement, so that entire life cycle needs to be managed. And finally, another piece that has different take and different strength in different markets, but certainly energy savings, the costs of HVAC, the cost of electricity of having machines running when they don't need to be are massive and continue to grow. And also with a number of countries have a significant focus by government agencies. So making sure that we're using the energy, whether it's electrical energy or whether we're actually using the actual other resources like water or other types of products involved in manufacturing is significant focus. And we want to make sure that we've got access to all that information and can pull that into our decision making. So talk a little bit about the market and where it's going. So just some quick facts up here. We'll find that about, I said, almost 70% of manufacturers are evaluating or executing on some type of digital transformation strategy. So this isn't something that's sort of just starting off. There's a large groundswell of activity within manufacturing of organizations who are jumping into this and want to be, are playing in this space and want to play in this space. The Internet of Things, or Industrial Internet of Things in the case of manufacturing, does have a significant growth development over the next few years. We're seeing about 29% year-over-year improvement in growth rate, so significant spending, significant investment in that space. And then finally, just some changes in the way the industry is going, that most machines are now connected. There is the ability to get data from machines in a simpler way. I wouldn't say completely simple or easy, but most machines are now available to get online somehow through your local area network and then possibly beyond that. There's a number of tools in the market, but the fact that you're not having to go in some way jerry-rig data to get access to it is a significant change and improvement in the market. So you have better access to data than you've ever had. The question is, can we sort of use it in the best way possible? So what are some of the challenges on that? So I'd say that one of the stats we have here is about 30% of digitalization projects never get past the proof of concept stage. So where we find a lot of our clients jump in is they find a point solution, they find something they think will work to address that one issue or those small issues that they've identified. They build a proof of concept. They get to a certain stage where maybe it works or possibly it doesn't. And then the next step is implementing it and rolling out across the organization. This is where things can get more tricky, whether it's additional costs and resources, whether it's the ability for that proof of concept to scale. And Damian will talk a fair bit about that in the back part of the presentation. The next part is that, instead of picking up on that piece, is about 84% of them never get out of that stage. So we get to that proof of concept, we build it up, and I was talking to some clients not a few weeks ago, and one of them brought up that they did this fantastic pilot, this proof of concept, proved a couple of points, and then of course they went to operations, and operations said, well, what do we do next? And they said, well, we can't really do anything because the pilot was only built to do what it does, and that scaling is going to be a significant effort. We almost have to start again. So there's a significant investment we've put in to get to this stage, and getting it to that next level of commercializing it and rolling it out through your organization is really the challenge that we're going to address in the rest of this session. So let's talk for a second about some of the drivers of digital transformation. There's a number we've listed up here, and there's many more. So some of the things you're intimately familiar with your own operations is that there is a real decrease or real challenge around skilled labor. People are not finding manufacturing possibly as sexy as it used to be. There's a requirement for much deeper skills, to have more of an IT bent to yourself if you're in manufacturing. You can't just be good at turning wrenches. There's got to be an understanding of the digital technology that's part of all manufacturing now. So that labor shortage continues to grow. A lot of organizations are finding that the executive team is really excited about digitalization. They're driving digital projects. That mandate can come from top down and drive the organization to invest and start thinking about how do we better use our data? How do we scale to make use of all this great information we've collected? Other organizations are finding it's actually a bottoms-up approach. So they're finding that their teams on the floor, the operators, the maintenance people are actually identifying opportunities for improvement within the organization and trying to elevate that up to senior management. So we kind of find a bottom up and a top down approach in different companies, depending on where they find themselves and how much empowerment is visible within the organization. The other one is around operational expertise. So we're finding quite often that either the number of people who understand and can help with operational improvement is decreasing, or they're really focused and localized. And if they're, depending which one it is, it results in different challenges. So if they are locally, maybe they're a head office, or maybe they're one plant, and those people are sort of the experts who fly around the planet and fix different locations when they have challenges. The next point about pandemic restrictions kind of feeds into that, where people aren't traveling like they used to. There's restrictions country to country, location to location. So with the pandemic that's currently underway, we've got the challenge of how do we get the best people, how do we get the smartest people to help us from an operational perspective? And that's raising even more challenges than we may have had before with the shortage. We now actually can't even get the good people we have to visit there, whether that's finding our customers experts, or even bringing in supplier experts as well. And then finally, the big one, economic pressure. So again, sort of maybe looking off of the pandemic restrictions, a lot of companies are suffering right now and are struggling with meeting numbers, with production, with having people come into work, with the challenges that come with being a compassionate organization around people's needs for safety. So there's that pressure. And then the other side, we're also seeing cost reductions, pricing decreases. So that standard pressure we've always had in the market continues, and maybe just being accelerated a little bit. So a number of drivers keeping this moving forward. Some of the blockers, I'll just hit these. So build up a slide here. So just recently, in the last couple of weeks, a survey and report were launched by the Canadian Manufacturing Magazine. It's called the 2021 Advanced Manufacturing Report. And it really picks up sort of the top 4 reasons why digitalization projects are not successful, resonate really well with our topic. And it's part of why we jumped into this topic, because we just thought it was a great one to cover and very timely. So about 60% of companies don't have budget to do a digitalization project. It becomes a skunk works done by IT or done by some really smart and crafty operations people. Almost half feel they don't have the skilled talent in-house. So they don't have people who understand the cloud. They don't have people who understand the tools. They don't have people who understand the intricacies of integrating different data sources, and at least in a place where it's hard to come up with a solution that'll work for them. About 40% are concerned about integration, so bridging off that skilled piece. We've got lots of brownfield, lots of legacy solutions. You all have tons of tools and technologies within your companies that you're using right now. There's a real hesitation to throw those out, to start fresh. And we certainly don't advocate that either. But there's a lot of feeling right now that maybe what we have isn't good enough and doesn't solve the needs. So how do we address that? And then finally, about a third, which isn't surprising, feel that there's a significant pressure to deliver short-term results. And we're all used to large projects working in the automation world and manufacturing. Building a line, making changes can take days, weeks, months, or longer. So having those quick responses where we invest in a project, we're agile, we get to a place where the project is successful, it still continues to be a challenge for a lot of organizations. So what we've kind of put on the next side of the slide here is how do we get around that? So how do we figure out what the right ways are to overcome some of these problems? And I'd say they're sort of knowing your business, understanding the problem, and knowing your business. And those two pieces, when you bring them together, we put up sort of 4 quick bullets here on what you need. You should have a business case. So I know it's kind of business 101, and we all get that. And I don't think that's a surprise to anyone, but having a strong business case with use cases included, the validation is critical. I'd say bringing in partners. So really going it alone in this stage is very difficult, as we indicated on the point beside it, that 47% feel they don't have the right skills. You've got to bring in partners, and we'll talk about partners in a few slides, but whether you're choosing on the operational side or the IT side or a combination, those are really important decisions, and partners are going to be key to this piece as well. So sort of picking up on that, having strong integration knowledge is critical to the success of your project, and we'll talk about that as well. And then finally, again, you need to demand fast ROI, and that should be part of your business case. So we'll hit on some of these as we go through, and even as we go through the demo, we'll talk through some of those. So I just want to identify sort of the problems and an approach in here, and then I'll hand it over to Damian, who will take the next sections. But so from a problem perspective, really a lot of companies out there are coming from a hardware space or a pure software space. So when you come from the hardware space, you know, it's sort of the old analogy about when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. From a hardware perspective, there are solutions that some of them have, but it may not address the entire integrated product portfolio. Likewise, a lot of solution providers or software providers don't necessarily have either the expertise or the full brand of their solution scope to pick up the intricacies of what you're going to need when you digitalize. If you deal with a consultant or some of the large consulting houses, they're quite often really great at helping with the strategy, but really do not help you particularly with the implementation. And as we all know, being in manufacturing, the implementation is a lot of the challenge. So making sure that anyone you work with doesn't just stop at sort of shelfware or having something that you finish and you know, we can't actually roll it out, it is a significant piece we need to look at. If you're looking at information technologies or information services companies, you know, do they have the domain knowledge? They may have great technology, they may have really smart people who understand how to do architecture, but can they really help you to operationalize what you're trying to do and engage in your people and your processes to make things better? And that's really where we're trying to get to. And then finally, the big one is integration. So we talked about this brownfield environment where we have lots of existing systems that you already own and have invested in. You know, we don't have a blank sheet of paper, so how does integration help you when you have a strong partner in that? And then finally, I'll just hit on domain knowledge, which is something I've sort of tickled a few times over the last few minutes, but really it's about generating value. You know, nobody's looking to do science experiments. Nobody wants to just build something that's new and shiny and exciting. We're doing this for a reason, and some of the reasons we started with and the challenges you have. But if you don't have that proper domain knowledge, it makes it really hard to extract maximum value. So on the right side of this slide, we just listed an approach, and you know, it's somewhat intuitive, but also surprising how many people don't kind of get this right. And obviously, you got to start with the problem, right, which is building the business case. You collect data and do research, and then you bring on tools. You know, we find a lot of people that Damian and I have dealt with that they start with the tool. So they go up to the market, they think they have a problem, they identify something that'll solve that problem, they bring it in, and then they kind of deal with the repercussions of what they found in the market. But the tool is not where we start. The platform is not the answer. The platform is part of the solution. And said our intention in the next sort of 20 minutes or half an hour here is to take you through what we think some of those ways are of addressing the problems, the data and the tools, and a consolidated solution that hopefully will help you run your business better and digitalize in the process. So I'll pass over to Damian, who will introduce himself, and then we'll keep moving into the next sections. So Damian, take it away.
So thanks a lot, Mike, for the intro, and I will take you now on the right path towards how you can integrate these digitalization solutions and how they can bring you the benefit that you are looking for. So initially we have to ask ourselves, so what kind of problem can digitalization really solve for me? And there is a manifold, but it can be things like, do I really have an insight in how my business is running, how my production is running? Do I have visibility? Do I have analytics? This is the first thing digitalization can solve very well. And from that, you can really derive a fast decision-making and informed decision-making. Making the right decisions fast is really changing how your complete business is behaving and is being successful. So with that, and if you have data, you can really quantify the impact of your solutions. You can really find the data supporting it. And we heard about building a business case. It will enable you to build that business case based on data, based on facts. That means if you are applying for a budget for a digitalization project, in the next step, you will have numbers supporting that. And a very popular use case here is, for example, working on the OEE. I never heard a customer complaining that his OEE is too high. Obviously, it's mostly the other way around. So OEE, throughput are really key topics that many customers want to improve, and we will take OEE kind of an example through the next slides and through the demo to see how could digitalization help you with the topic of improving your OEE. So you can also work then on, besides OEE, on throughput. You can work on prevent unplanned downtimes. There are many nice applications on that. You can optimize your complete production workflow. You can identify bottlenecks within your production. And last but not least, very important, you can really tackle the demographic change. We see many customers struggling to find really good operational stuff. And digitalization can support you to really reduce your FTEs and keeping your production running even in the challenging times of finding the right stuff at the right time. So in order to be successful, we have identified 3 main areas that you need to have a complete and a holistic digitalization project. Number 1, you always have to start with the process. The process is that what you want to improve. The process can be something like your manufacturing process. Your process can be also something like your maintenance process. So anything that is running within your production that is costing money can be improved. And there you have to bring in the expertise. The expertise can be partially with you, but the expertise can be also with partners. And we as ATS have just listed a few to make it more graphical, to say, okay, how could a partner possibly look that I'm looking for? He can bring in equipment knowledge. He can bring in the domain knowledge, really understanding your process. He can understand what kind of service offerings you need. He can understand your process that you are running, and he can also understand the business side of your production. And bringing that all together is important because operations is normally 100% loaded with operations. So bringing in another project is often overloading them, and it's also one area where a lot of frustration comes with digitalization projects. The second thing that you will need is a platform. We said it's not the first thing you need to do, but at some point in time, you will have to invest in something. And you would look at something that is easy to implement, fast to implement, and will give you with first use cases a return of invest. You don't want to build a platform for 1 year and then find out it's not really helpful. But this is what we really see in reality with our customers when they are trying to approach everything from a tools first approach, which we don't recommend. And when you then have your knowledge, you have identified your problem, then you can go into data analytics, and then utilizing the domain knowledge within your company and within your partners, you can really bring in business intelligence, self-service analytics. You can bring artificial intelligence and machine learning really to support you and to bring value to it. Because in the end, it's about the value that you bring with the digitalization initiative. And you have to bring these pillars together and really integrate them in order to have a successful project. And you can easily understand if you compare the slides with the problem, the data, the tool, and you compare them to these 3 pillars, you will see if you take away one of the pillars, the cycle will not work anymore. So how would we recommend our customers to approach digitalization projects? First, think about your problems. Really make a funnel of goals, strategic goals you want to achieve. Create a backlog of them. Think about the values and the benefits it will bring you as a company. And then think about, do I need to bring in partners from day one, or can I do the first steps also internally? And once you have done that, once you have your strategy, then you go into a sprint planning. And here you will think about the use cases, you will formalize them, and you will be very honest with yourself. How ready am I for the use cases? And based on that, you will pick on the value versus the readiness, the low-hanging fruits that you have. And then you will also determine, can it be done in a realistic and fast way within my company? And only then I would recommend to select a tool that is helping you. And from there, you go into a sprint execution where you have small goals. You can go in a small POC. You can build a minimum viable product, but always with the goal that this is bringing you value. And always keeping in mind that this thing must be able to scale. So let's take the example of a machine learning algorithm. It's great if your data scientists develop something that is bringing you results, but you cannot deploy the solution if a data scientist always needs to sit next to the solution. So with that example, you can see I need to have something that is industry ready. And with that, you can go live, you can build the solution up, and you can scale. And scale is a very, very important and often underestimated component of it to really generate value, because generating value just out of one application is difficult. But if you apply it over and over and over again, you can really generate value out of that. And just think about this value stream if you would have an OEE improvement plan. So in a strategy, you would say, this is one of my targets. In your sprint planning, you would say, okay, can this be done? Do we have the data to support a program like this? Do we have the right people on board? Do we have the right partners on board? And then you can say, okay, which tool can give me fast value and is also capable of scaling? And then you would go in a very agile project approach. And I would say, if you don't see any results after 3 to 6 months, think hard about your strategy. Maybe this problem is too big at the moment, select something else. And with that, we have to now go back a little bit to the platform. And one thing is very clear, if we look also in our daily lives, the dominating technology currently is cloud technology. And cloud is offering a big variety of possibilities and is also allowing you to do exactly what we have just discussed. You can make a very small pilot that is fully scalable. That means you can start small and fast, but later then scale up. You can integrate a lot of different data sources, which you will need, because when you think about Industry 4.0, IIoT, it's all about bringing data silos together. And doing that in a cloud environment is making it easier and also faster. And if you failed, you have not invested heavily in licenses that are then just lying around. So having that in a cloud environment, really integrating your shop floor with other data sources like an ERP, like a PLM, adding business intelligence tools to it, adding artificial intelligence and machine learning to it, can bring the benefits that you are looking for. In the area of an OEE, you would say, okay, I need to record what is really going on in my site. But maybe it would be also great to get the data out of my ERP to compare, okay, which production have been run on which equipment, because sometimes that information cannot be found within the line. And bringing that all together will give you benefits and will give you insights for your further production. So what we have done is we have built a demo demonstrating how could such a small POC that is still scalable be done today in a fast way, in a very, very affordable way, and using the latest technologies like an Azure cloud environment. And what we have done here in this particular case is we have taken data from a manufacturing line that is having Illuminate on it. I mean, Illuminate is a great tool that is collecting data from a manufacturing line and presenting it to people that are investigating and figuring out how to run the plant better. But it is a machine-focused tool. So it is doing what it's doing very well for a machine, but it has no context, for example, with SAP data or any other data that has been run within the plant. So what you can see is you have different data sources. You can have Illuminate, but maybe some lines don't have it, which is a pity, but maybe there is only an Excel sheet somebody is filling in. So how do I integrate that? Also, that is possible. And maybe you have even third-party lines that are doing data collection in a complete different way and are maybe very old. Also, this can be integrated. And then, as mentioned before, you have to bring in also your SAP data and to really understand what is going on in my manufacturing line. And with that, we would really like to demonstrate a day in a life of an operations manager. That means how these technologies can help an operational manager with all the struggles that he had with maintaining operations, having an overview, while having a large amount of different data sources that he needs to correlate. And with that, I will go into the demo. So what you see here in the demo is basically what you have seen before. You see the structure, you see the different data sources, and how all of that is integrated. So when I, as the production manager, come into the morning into the office, what do I do first? I go into a map and I need an overview of what is going on. This can be a world map like shown here. This can be a site layout. This can be a plant layout. Everything is possible here. And with a blink of an eye, I will identify, okay, there is an issue in North America with OEE. Clicking on it and I see, okay, my OEE is at 70%, and I really want to investigate what is going on. I need to understand it better. What I will do then is I will just drill down and I see my different zones and I will identify, okay, zone 5 is currently not producing anything. And the question is, what is going on? And still I can drill down one level deeper. And I will get an overview of what my plant did in the past and how it is behaving currently. And what I also have here is the first time I will have information from various data sources. In blue, I will see the data within SAP. And in gray, I will see the Illuminate data from the shop floor. And I can, with a blink of an eye, identify, okay, is this a reproduction shutdown? Or is that just a problem with SAP? And as you can see here, both systems say there is no production. The line system on the site and also SAP. So the possibility that something is wrong is 100% because I can just verify it. And if I want to go even deeper, I can look at everything that is going on over the different zones over time. I can look at my SAP work orders and also jump into them. And I can also verify the data if I want to have a deep dive within Illuminate. So just with one click, I will switch the application and go directly into Illuminate, because the target of this solution is not to replace these single components, but to really combine everything. So here, the operations people can really do a deep dive and get a deep understanding of what is going on within the line. And they can even go down deeper than the original system is doing it, even down to the cell level. Going back to my tool, I can have that view. And now the question is, okay, but what is going on with that line? And what I can do is I can look at the failures at the line. And in this use case, all the errors have been recorded in SAP. And here all the maintenance costs are combined. So what I can see with the blink of an eye here, I can see my daily maintenance cost and also in red, my accumulated cost. How does it help me? It helps me in two ways. Number one, I can see that from April this year, there are constantly problems on the line and nobody is solving them. Number one. Number two, with the accumulation here, I can see I spent this year more than 30,000 euro on repairs. So I can say, okay, does it make sense to spend 10,000 euro for a big repair? And what would be my return of invest? And here I don't have to do any math. I can say easily within half a year, I will save that money on maintenance cost, plus I will have the additional production capability. And I don't have to stop here. I can go even a step further. I say, okay, if this is my current behavior, how can I improve the behavior in the future? And here I can make a simulation of the tool. I can just load the manufacturing line. I can easily identify what the problem here is. It is not quality, but obviously availability is contributor to my current OEE. And I see all parameters that are contributing to my OEE. And from here, I can really determine what is the area I should focus my work on. And I can easily say, if I would bring down my production breakdown time. So if I have to bring down my production time to maybe 2% less, my OEE will increase, and I can even figure out the impact that it has on my OEE implementation. So you have seen with that demo, I can identify a problem. I can bring data together from two different data sources. I can quantify the problem. And I can even determine the path of action that will bring me the fastest return of invest. And I can not only do that, I can even go further and predict future behavior if I look at the past. And I can do that with the help of machine learning algorithms. So for example, here we're having an application of servers that are running with server space. And you can see this is my current availability. This is my threshold. And I'm having a prediction that is telling me within this year, in November, I will run into difficulties with that equipment. So I can easily see where is the trend going forward. And this could be, for example, also used for an OEE, where I see, do I have a positive trend or a negative trend? Meaning, if I'm doing initiatives, I can reevaluate them if they had an impact. And I can also see, will they have in the future a positive feedback on my production? Good. And with that, back to you, Mike.
Thanks, Damian. Appreciate the demo and taking us through really the subtleties and the power of consolidating data. And the thing I find whenever I see the demo, and I've seen the live work as well, it really strikes me is that we always look at data and we get some insight and we think it's interesting, but it's taking it to that next level. It's how do you find out what that's telling you and how do you take action on it? I think Damian did a great job of showing us that it's not just taking information off the floor, it's what's the impact of that against the other business systems and how are you pulling them together. So maybe just to wrap up here, getting near the end of our session, so we're going to leave some time for questions at the end. We'll address those after. So just sort of some final thoughts from us. So just wrapping back to where you've been. So if you're looking at doing a digital transformation project, really before you jump into these, sort of some questions you want to ask of anyone you're engaging with, and I think this applies to any project, but maybe particular to these as well, is you really find out, do the people really understand your problems? Do they understand your business? Do they understand automation? Do they understand manufacturing? Do they have people who've worked on different tasks, whether it's integration, artificial intelligence, whether it's something around vision or visual inspection, whether they understand OEE. It's funny, I was on a call a little while ago and we were talking to a potential supplier, and we asked about experience in some of these areas, and really specifically, how many people do you have who have that expertise? And I think those are important questions to ask, because it's going to inform the quality of the output. Do you have that domain expertise? Do you have thousands, tens of thousands of implementations and deployment under your belt that you can actually talk to and say, yeah, we've done this type of work, we understand your production line and your challenges? Do you understand, and can you ask, how much are they going to do versus how much are we going to do? So as an organization, I mentioned earlier on in the presentation that, do you have your own internal stakeholders who can help with this project? Well, if you don't, and they're expecting you to do a lot of the work, then that could be a significant issue. Damian talked about scale in his presentation, so I would just refer back to that scaling, whether it's locally, globally, across different plants, across different continents, is a highly important skill to have and understand if you can do it. They support the entire life cycle from sort of concept and strategy all the way through to implementation, deployment, and support. Important to understand too. And then understanding, and Damian hit this as well, that the current trend and the current sort of development environment is the cloud, and we think the cloud will be around for a long time, obviously. But trends come and trends go. So our question is, are you really future-proofing yourself for those future operational opportunities you're working on? And then I guess the final one here I just want to hit on is back to the model. So we talked about identifying the problem, having the data, and then finding the tools. So I just pull you back to that before we sort of open up the floor. So in conclusion, we kind of, our final statement here is demand fast results. And we're pretty confident we can help you, and hopefully the demo is giving you an idea of what sorts of things we can do and we've done with other people. If you want to learn more about ATS and our capabilities, you can go to the atsautomation.com site. I've also included Damian and my email addresses here too. And with that, we'll end the formal part of this presentation, and we'll open up the phones to your questions. I want to thank you for your time and your engagement. Hopefully you learned something. It was fun and entertaining. And yeah, look forward to your questions. So thank you for attending.